This is the plaintiff, Kenneth Ives Jr. He says he hired the defendant, a gun store owner, to install 2 silencers on 2 of his rifle barrels, and the guy is inept as they come. Not only didn't he do the work in a timely manner, he was very difficult to deal with. And he's suing him today for the $1,222 he's owed. This is the defendant, Matt. He says he let the plaintiff know he'd have to fill out paperwork with the federal government, who oversees the lawful installation of barrel silencers. And the process could take a year to complete. The plaintiff then gave him a deposit and 2 weeks later began badgering him about why the process was taking so long. Hello? He told him it could take up to a year and to chill out. He's guessing the plaintiff didn't like that answer, and that's why they're here now, in court. He's accused of going off half-cocked.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket, the plaintiff hired the defendant to put 2 silencers on some rifles and says the guy was incompetent. But the defendant says it's a long process to complete because the government wants it that way. It's the case of I won't be silenced.
Thank you, Douglas. Kenneth Ives, you are suing. You've asked to be referred to only as Matt. You are suing Matt's store for $1,222, a balance of a deposit that you gave to him for work that was not completed. Tell me what happened.
That's correct. I hired him to do some modifications to 2 rifle barrels.
How did you meet him?
Through my business. He came into my business to do work, and I did work for him.
What is your business?
I own a motorcycle dealership.
All right, so he came into your business in order to have work done to what?
He owns an ATV, and we did some work to his ATV.
All right, and then you got to talking, and you found out what he did for a living, and what is it you do for a living?
I'm a federal firearms dealer.
Okay, and you wanted to have something done to a couple of rifles. What was that?
We were going to put noise suppressors on them.
Oh, silencers?
Correct.
All right, and what is the purpose of having silencers on the rifles?
Keep the decibel level lower, not to annoy people when shooting.
Okay. So you hire him to do that, and you folks come up to an agreement that's kind of a barter thing? No, according to you. How much did you give him an estimate for the ATV?
Absolutely.
And on the day that he brought it in before the work was done?
In my business, it would be impossible to know exactly what the repairs would cost. We take all their information, we work on their machine, and then we call them with an exact cost of what they want repaired.
What if they didn't want to spend all that? There's no point, like with a car repair, where you have to call them and say, listen, this is what I think needs doing, and this is what it'll cost. Do I have your approval? There's never that?
There's always that. If he comes in and says, I want the pistons replaced in my four-wheeler, or the brakes aren't working, what's it going to cost to fix? We then evaluate it and call the customer and say, this is what we found wrong with it.
What happened in this particular case? What needed fixing on his ATV?
I don't remember. This case didn't have anything to do with his ATV.
Well, he says it does. That's why I'm asking you the questions. So I'll be the judge of whether it did or didn't.
I have his work order here.
Give me his work order, please.
I actually brought in 2 vehicles for repair,
Okay.
my son's motorcycle and also my personal ATV.
Okay. Did he give you a price that day when you came in for the work?
No, ma'am, he did not.
When did he give you a price?
He called me over the phone after about 2 to 3 weeks and said that it would be approximately $1,500.
Did you have a problem with the $1,500?
I did not at all.
Did you pay him the $1,500?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. So
However,
now he hired you to put the silencers on his rifles.
well, prior to him hiring me for the silencers, I was in his dealership. He began asking me and inquiring about what I did for a living. Once he found out I was a federal firearms dealer, he referenced the barter system.
All right. So when does he give you the rifles?
When do you give him the rifles? I'm unclear on the date, but I believe it was May 26th.
5/22. He picked them up at my dealership.
On 5/22, he picks up the rifles at your dealership. And in order to put the silencers on, does he have to pass a background check?
He does have to pass a background check, which is approximately 6 to 8 months.
So did you fill that paperwork out?
The paperwork doesn't get filled out until later on during the process. So there was work that needed to be done to the rifles.
Why wouldn't the paperwork be getting filled out in the meantime?
Because the background check, even as a licensed dealer, I have to be background checked again for 3 months, 3 to 4 months before I can take possession of the silencers. Then I do the paperwork for whoever the client is.
Is that all within the 6 months that you talked about?
My time frame is 3 to 4 months.
And then his time frame
And
would
then
be
his
6
time
months?
frame is 6 to 8 months.
So did you ever tell him that it would be a year? Early on, beforehand?
I don't
Not
have,
when you're yelling at each other about how long it's taking, but
No, that
early
was
on.
in the original verbal conversation.
Yeah,
when
that's
he,
where we watch this. Was it a year?
No.
Okay. All right. So according to you, it's going to take a year, and according to you, it's going to take what?
So why do people put silencers on guns?
Well, they don't want anyone to know that they're shooting somebody.
Yeah, I mean, what is it other than an illegal reason they would do it?
There is no other reason. That's the only reason.
I gotta say, I was thinking about this before we started talking. I can't come up with an answer going inside the courtroom.
In the very beginning, it was going to be 6 to 8 months, and that never got to be a problem. The problem for me is I gave him a $1,400 deposit, and when we met, he told me that I would have my barrels back within 2 weeks. I didn't get my barrels back for 2 months.
So according to you, he's going to get that initial part done in 2 weeks, and it takes 2 months. What's your response to that? Let me see the
These
picture.
are pictures of the
That's-
adapters.
That's fairly accurate.
Okay. Why did it take 2 months?
Because one of his rifles is a custom rifle, and it required a lot more labor and parts that I didn't have on hand. And there was a backlog on ordering of the parts, and I conveyed that to him as well.
So at some point, he gets frustrated enough with you that he says, I don't want you to do the rest of the job.
That's correct.
And just charge me for the adapters.
That's correct.
And what is it you charge him for the adapters?
Well, I was going to be doing $4,000 worth of work for him in total, and my assumption was that he was going to be doing $1,500 worth of work on
And that therefore what?
And therefore, he was going to pay the balance or the difference
Okay, so
between.
where does he approve $4,000? Because the only thing
It's-
you told him was a 21 something, right?
It's on the worksheet that he signed and that I
Let me
provided him
see
with.
that.
May I see the sheet that shows that I was going to pay $4,000?
Yep, as soon as I do.
Okay. The sheet that I'm providing there is the only thing I ever got from Matt.
Okay, where is he approving paying $4,000? You have retail and then you have dealer.
Yeah, we had a
Your
verbal.
deal was for $2,130, and you want to be able to charge him $4,900 based on the fact that you felt that he never gave you a price break on the $1,500. When did you pay the $1,500?
It wasn't.
When did he
150
pay the $1,500?
522, about an hour before that was presented to me, and I
Is
gave
that
him
accurate?
my
No,
deposit.
it's not accurate.
When did you pay the $1,500?
I have his
On
signature.
526, and
Prove
it
to
was.
me that you paid it on 526.
I can show you my bank records.
Sure.
May I speak?
Nope. I can only do one thing at a time. I'm a very simple woman.
It's going to take me a few minutes because it's
Oh,
mobile.
then yes, you can speak.
It's a mobile.
Thank
Yep.
you. Thank you very much. I have video surveillance in my store, and I have a picture on 522 at 10:05 of him behind the counter, and with that paper that's in your hand from me of us doing this transaction, and also
Can I see that it is this paper, or no, that's hard to see?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
let me see what you got.
You might be able to zoom in on it, but in that we can go back to video surveillance on my cell
Do
phone.
you have it here?
Yeah.
Okay, no, we're fine. So according to you, he pays you by check or by credit card?
I don't remember how the ATV was
By
paid.
check or by
I
credit?
paid by credit card.
By credit card, okay. So he had already paid the $1,500 when he gave you the price
Correct. The whole transaction all happened
in one sitting.
In-
All right, so
correct.
now, according to you, he's supposed to pay you back $1,222 because the adapting should only cost you what?
That estimate was $178.
Okay. And according to him, he should only have to give you back
$713.
because?
Because based on the
Because
verbal.
you want to charge instead of the 170
just-
something, you feel that it's appropriate for you to charge the retail.
absolutely, I do.
All right, were you able to find when
It's
you
only
pay-
going back on my mobile device to June,
Right,
so I'd have to get to a computer.
right. Yeah, I don't have time for that. You're telling me, Judge, I get to change a price because he changed, he didn't do what he said he would do.
Yeah, well,
Right.
the silencers, once they're ordered, they're assigned to serial numbers. Those are non-refundable. And they're
Had
very,
you ordered the silencers?
I did. And they're,
Can
and
I
they're
see
very,
proof that you ordered the silencers?
I didn't bring that
That's
either.
right, because you were still at that point waiting for your own clearance, weren't you?
I was still waiting for my clearance, correct.
Exactly. So how could you order the silencers if you hadn't passed the clearance yet? You know
Because
what? $1,222 verdict for the plaintiff.
All right, with that, here's the defendant out in the hallway here. You just heard the plaintiff collect every cent he sued for. What's your reaction to this?
Don't barter with friends, and just be careful with the people you do business with. But he has a history of suing people, and that's the type of caliber person. So,
All right, so why'd you go and do business with him? in
well, I
the
didn't
first
know
place?
that. I didn't know that at the time through research and other things.
You learn anything about the way you do business in the future?
Absolutely. Contracts and
Yes.
such. Thank
The
you.
People's Court, right. So step on in here, and you got everything you sued for. What's your thought here?
I've never been in court before in my life. Some of the statements that he just made were absolutely ridiculous and unprofessional. Never any bartering. If there was bartering when he first walked into my store, why would he have paid for his ATVs to be finished? He just wanted to keep my money and not do the work.
You getting those silencers put on that?
Yeah, I'll find a more reputable business to do business with and won't have a problem.
Harvey?
Okay, you know, this happens a lot where somebody wants to change a contract once they sign it or make the deal. The fact is, you cannot unilaterally, on your own, change the deal without the other person's consent.